It was supposed to be just another Halloween night, the one where you throw on a cheap costume, eat too much candy, and laugh at fake horror. But every Halloween, someone out there meets real horror, the kind that never makes the news because it's too unbelievable to explain. I've spent years collecting stories from people who swear their Halloween turned into something they can never forget. Tonight, I'll share 8 of them. 8 true Halloween horror stories that will make your skin crawl. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button before the lights go out, because these stories aren't just made to entertain you. They're meant to remind you how real fear can get. Now turn down the lights. Because once you start this video, you won't be sleeping easy tonic. When I was 17, Halloween always meant one thing at our school, the annual haunted house in the gym. It was harmless fun, organized by the senior class, and I volunteered to help with setup that year. My shift ended late, around 9:30 p.m., and the building was almost empty when I went downstairs to grab the leftover props from the basement storage room. The basement was the oldest part of the school, low ceilings, cracked pipes, and that smell of wet concrete that never went away. The janitor, Mr. Harlan, was the only one who had a key down there, but that night the door was already unlocked. I figured he'd left it open for cleanup. I carried a flashlight in one hand, the glow flickering weakly against the dusty floor. At the far end of the hall was the storage room, a metal door with peeling paint and a single flickering bulb overhead. Inside were boxes of decorations, fake skeletons, fog machines, and plastic chains. I started collecting what I needed when I heard it. A sound that didn't belong down there. It wasn't footsteps, not exactly. More like a slow dragging, something heavy scraping against the floor. It came from behind the next hallway that split off toward the boiler room. I froze. I called out, "Mr. Harlan, that you?" No answer. Just the sound again, closer now. I thought maybe someone else was cleaning up, so I went to check. The hallway was dark except for the faint red glow from the emergency light at the end. The dragging stopped. I stood there, holding my breath. And then, the sound of breathing. Deep, uneven breathing from the shadows. "Hey," I said again, a little louder. "Who's down here?" No reply. Just a shuffle, like someone stepping backward into the dark. I raised the flashlight, but it started to flicker. I hit it against my hand. The beam came back just in time to catch a glimpse of something moving at the end of the hall. Someone, tall, wearing what looked like a janitor's coat. But Mr. Harlan was short and stocky. This guy was thin, his head tilted slightly, like his neck didn't sit right on his shoulders. "Sir, the school's closed," I called out, trying to sound confident. "You can't be down here." That's when the figure started walking toward me, slow, steady, footsteps echoing on the concrete. I backed up into the storage room, heart pounding. "I'm calling security," I warned, even though my phone had no signal underground. The steps stopped just outside the door. Then came a whisper, "You shouldn't be down here either." It was low, raspy, and wrong, like someone trying to talk with their throat full of gravel. I slammed the door and locked it from the inside, breathing hard. I pressed my ear against the metal, but there was only silence now. After a few minutes, I slowly opened it again. The hallway was empty. I grabbed the box of props and practically sprinted upstairs. When I reached the gym, 2 teachers were still cleaning up. I told them what happened, but they laughed it off, said it was probably one of the seniors playing a prank. The next morning, I came early to return the basement key, but the janitor wasn't there. Our principal later announced that Mr. Harlan had called out sick, said he'd been out since Thursday. That didn't make sense. I'd heard someone down there Friday night. After class, I went to ask the front office about it, but before I could speak, I overheard the secretary talking to a police officer. Apparently, Mr. Harlan's car had been found 2 days earlier, parked on the edge of the woods near the school. Inside, they found his uniform and his ID badge. No sign of him. When the police searched the school, they found the basement door had been chained from the inside, even though no one had a key to that lock anymore. I never went back down there. They sealed that hallway off a week later, welded shut for safety. But every Halloween night, if you walk past the old building after dark, people say you can still hear the scraping, that slow dragging sound beneath your feet. Like something still trying to get out. I grew up in a small town in northern Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and Halloween was still a big deal. Every year, kids in costumes would go door to door until almost 10 o'clock, parents trailing behind with flashlights, laughing and chatting. But in 2011, something happened that changed that tradition forever. I was 15 then. My little brother, Connor, was 8, dressed as a skeleton that year, complete with glow-in-the-dark bones painted on his hoodie. I remember he was so proud of that costume. I promised Mom I'd take him around our neighborhood while she stayed home handing out candy. The night started out normal. We went from house to house, filled his plastic pumpkin to the brim, and stopped at our neighbor's bonfire halfway through. Everyone was there, kids running, music playing, parents with hot chocolate in hand. It felt safe. But around 8:45, Connor tugged my sleeve. "Can we go to the big blue house at the end?" he asked. That house had always creeped me out. It was huge, old, with boarded windows on the second floor and a for sale sign that had been there for years. The lawn was overgrown, and no one ever seemed to live there. But that night, a single blue porch light was glowing over the door, the signal that they were giving out candy. "Just that one, then we're going home," I told him. We crossed the street, leaves crunching under our shoes. I noticed right away that something was off. No other kids were heading that way. Every other house had groups of trick-or-treaters, but the blue house stood silent and alone at the edge of the block. Connor ran ahead, eager. He went up the 3 steps to the porch and knocked. The blue light buzzed faintly above him. I waited by the sidewalk, watching. He knocked again. No answer. Then the door opened, just a few inches, and a man's voice said something I couldn't hear. Connor turned and looked at me, smiling. "It's okay," he called out. Then he stepped inside. I froze. "Hey," I shouted, walking up the path. "Connor, don't go in there." The door closed. I ran to the porch and started banging. "Hey, open up. That's my brother." No answer. I yanked the handle, locked. I shouted again, louder this time, and then I heard it, the faint sound of crying from somewhere inside. I panicked. I sprinted back to the street, waving at the other parents by the bonfire. Mr. Walsh, our neighbor, came running when he saw my face. I tried to explain, but the words came out jumbled. He went in, blue light, locked door. Mr. Walsh called 911 immediately. Within 10 minutes, 2 police cars pulled up, lights flashing. They told everyone to stay back as they approached the house. One officer pounded on the door, announced themselves, then kicked it in. I remember the sound echoing down the street. They went inside with flashlights, and for what felt like forever, there was silence. Then one of them called out, "We found something." But it wasn't Connor. It was a pile of old costumes, dozens of them, kids' costumes. Torn masks, capes, plastic pumpkins, all stacked in a dusty corner of the living room. The house had no furniture, no running water, no power, except that single blue light wired into an extension cord through the floorboards. They searched the whole place, basement, attic, backyard. Nothing. Connor was gone. For the next 2 days, the police combed the woods behind the property, brought in dogs, volunteers, everything. My parents were destroyed. I barely slept. And then, on the 3rd night, just before midnight, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Nothing at first. Just static. Then a whisper. "He liked the blue light." I froze. "Who is this?" I demanded. The call cut out. We traced the number. It came from a disconnected landline, the same house. The police went back, but the place was empty again. They boarded it up, sealed it off for good this time. 2 weeks later, a postal worker found something stuffed into an old mailbox 2 towns over, a plastic pumpkin filled with candy wrappers and one glow-in-the-dark bone from a child's costume. DNA confirmed it belonged to Connor. They never found the man. Never found his name, his car, or where he came from. The house was demolished the following summer. But every Halloween, someone still puts a single blue light at the edge of that empty lot. And if you drive by after midnight, you'll see it flicker once, then go out. They say that's when he chooses who's next. I used to work as an overnight security guard at a small shopping mall in Pennsylvania. It wasn't a glamorous job, just long hours, coffee that tasted like oil, and the constant hum of old fluorescent lights. Halloween was usually quiet. The stores closed early, the parking lot emptied by 10, and by 11 p.m., it was just me, the CCTV monitors, and the sound of the air vents rattling. That night started like any other. Around midnight, I began my rounds, flashlight in hand, checking each door and corridor. The food court lights were half off, giving everything that strange yellow tint. I always hated walking past the old arcade. It had been shut down for months, machines still inside covered with plastic sheets. When the air moved just right, the loose sheets would flutter, making it look like something was breathing under them. At 12:47 a.m., I returned to the security office and glanced at the monitor wall. One of the cameras, number 6, was flickering. That one faced the back hallway leading to the maintenance exit. I tapped the screen to adjust it, and that's when I saw it. A person, standing still at the end of the hall, facing the camera. No movement, no reason to be there. They were tall, wearing what looked like a long coat and a white mask, maybe one of those blank costume masks people wear on Halloween. At first, I thought it was some drunk teenager who snuck in through the back door. I grabbed my radio and called out, "Control to maintenance, anyone still inside?" Silence. Then, through the speakers, I heard something faint, a soft tapping sound. I looked back at the camera. The figure had moved closer. Still facing the lens, head tilted slightly. I zoomed in. The mask wasn't plastic. It looked painted, pale with dark circles around the eyes. And something else, the coat looked wet, glistening under the dim light. I decided to go check. Bad idea, I know. But the rules were clear: investigate disturbances first, call police if needed. The hallway was colder than the rest of the mall. I could feel it immediately. My shoes squeaked on the tiles as I turned the corner. Empty. The figure was gone. I walked to the end of the corridor, heart pounding, checking each door. The exit door was still locked. I scanned around and spotted something on the ground, a smear of water leading back toward the arcade. I followed it. The trail led right to the glass doors of the arcade. Inside, the plastic sheets were swaying again. I pressed my flashlight to the glass and saw movement behind the counter, a shadow bending down. "Hey," I shouted, knocking hard. "Mall's closed. Come out." The shadow froze. Then slowly, it stood up. The head rose first, then the shoulders. The light caught the mask again, same pale face, black hollow eyes. But now, up close, I could see something moving behind the eye holes. Not darkness. Eyes. Real eyes. I fumbled for my keys, unlocked the door, and swung it open, empty. Just silence, machines, and those plastic sheets. I checked every corner. Nothing. Then my radio crackled. "Security," a voice said. It was my supervisor, who wasn't even supposed to be on that channel. "You're not supposed to be here tonight," I said. No answer. Just breathing. I froze, raising the radio slowly. "Who is this?" The voice came again, quieter now. "He's behind you." I spun around, flashlight beam shaking across the room. Empty. But then, from the reflection in one of the arcade machine screens, I saw movement, the white mask, inches from my shoulder. I turned and swung the flashlight as hard as I could. It hit nothing. The air was empty, but the radio was still hissing. "You shouldn't have gone there," the voice whispered. "He doesn't like being seen." I dropped the radio and ran. I didn't stop until I was back in the office. When I slammed the door shut, I saw the monitor again. Camera 6 was still on, but now the image had changed. The figure was standing right outside the security office, facing the door. No sound, no footsteps, just standing there. I called 911. It took them 7 minutes to arrive. When the police entered, the hallway was empty. But the floor outside was wet, same glistening trail leading back toward the arcade. They checked every inch of the building, even reviewed the camera footage. And that's when we realized something terrifying. The timestamp on the footage showed the figure appearing 2 hours before I saw him live. Like I'd been watching a delayed recording of something that already happened. I quit that job the next day. A month later, I got a call from the new night guard. He said the arcade was finally being cleared out. He found one of the old machines powered on somehow, even though the breakers were off. The game on the screen was a shooting game, 1 player, high score list on the side. The top score name read Security. The date next to it, Halloween night. It was Halloween night, 2009. I was 17, saving up for college, and babysitting was my main gig. The Olsons were regulars, nice couple, early 30s, 2 kids, Sarah, age 6, and Michael, age 8. Their house sat on the far edge of town, surrounded by trees and fields that always felt too quiet after dark. That night, they told me they'd be home around 11. "Help yourself to the candy, Mrs. Olson laughed, slipping on her coat. "We'll be back before midnight." The kids were easy. We watched a few cartoons, then I put them to bed by 9:30. I turned off the porch light since trick-or-treating hours were over, made myself some cocoa, and settled on the couch with my phone. Around 10:15, the landline rang. The caller ID just said unknown number. I hesitated, then picked up. "Hello." Nothing. Then, faint breathing. Slow, rhythmic. Hello, Mr. Olson, I asked. Still nothing, just that same breathing. Then the line clicked and went dead. I brushed it off. Maybe a prank call. It was Halloween, after all. 10 minutes later, the phone rang again. Same number. This time, when I answered, a low voice said, "Check on the children." The words froze me. Who was this? Click. Dead again. I ran upstairs and opened Sarah's door first. She was asleep, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Then Michael, snoring softly, safe in bed. I exhaled, closed both doors quietly, and went back down. Another ring. I didn't answer this time. I just stared at the phone until it stopped. Then I unplugged it from the wall. Silence returned, heavy and unnatural. I was sitting back on the couch when I noticed something outside the window. A shape, just barely visible through the thin curtains. Someone was standing on the edge of the yard, still as stone. The porch light was off, so all I could make out was an outline, tall, narrow shoulders, a hood pulled up. My stomach dropped. I crept to the window, pulled the curtain back an inch, and the figure moved, not closer, but sideways, like they were circling the house. I grabbed my phone to call the Olsons, but the signal bar was gone, no service. I stood there for a few seconds, heart hammering, trying to decide what to do. Then I heard it, a faint creak upstairs, the kind of sound you only hear when someone is walking slowly, careful not to wake anyone. I grabbed the fire poker from beside the fireplace and started up the stairs, one step at a time. Every light in the hallway felt too dim, like the shadows were swallowing them whole. At the top, I stopped. Sarah's door was open now. I knew I'd closed it. "Sarah," I whispered. No answer. I pushed the door open. The bed was empty. The stuffed rabbit lay on the floor. I spun around to check Michael's room. Empty too. Then I heard the creak again, coming from the attic hatch at the end of the hall. It was slightly open, swaying gently. "Kids," I called out again, voice shaking. No sound. I started toward the attic, every instinct screaming at me not to. I pulled the cord that dropped the wooden ladder down, it hit the floor with a hollow thud. I climbed 3 steps, flashlight in one hand, poker in the other. The attic smelled like dust and cold insulation. My light beam swept across boxes and old furniture. Then it landed on something that made my blood freeze. 2 small feet, bare. Sarah and Michael were standing in the far corner, eyes wide, faces pale. I started toward them, whispering, "It's okay, it's me." But before I could reach them, a shape rose up behind them. Tall, the same hooded figure from outside. He didn't move at first. Just stood there, one hand resting on the beam above him. Then he said, almost softly, "You shouldn't have come up." I screamed, swung the poker, it hit nothing but air. The flashlight flickered, went out. The next thing I remember is stumbling backward, falling down the ladder. I hit the floor hard and scrambled for the phone, forgetting I'd unplugged it. Then I heard footsteps coming down the attic ladder. Slow, measured. Just then, headlights swept across the front window, the Olsons' car pulling into the driveway. The footsteps stopped. The attic door creaked once more, then slammed shut. The Olsons rushed inside when they saw my face. I was shaking too hard to speak. Mr. Olson ran upstairs while his wife held me. When he came back down, his face was pale. "The kids are in their beds," he said. I thought he was joking. No, I saw them in the attic. But he swore both were asleep, exactly where I'd put them hours ago. The police arrived and searched the house from top to bottom. They found muddy footprints on the attic floor, adult-sized, leading straight to the window and ending there, as if someone had climbed in from the roof and back out again. But that wasn't the strangest part. The phone line I'd unplugged. The technician later said the Olsons' landline hadn't been connected to the grid for nearly 2 years. Whoever called that night didn't use a real line. And every Halloween since, at exactly 10:15 p.m., the Olsons' house phone rings once. No caller ID, no sound, just the faint breathing on the other end.